Everybody, it's Annette from The Art of Intuition, and today we are going to talk about collective memories, where our memories go, and why we resonate with certain people and don't resonate with other people. Why do we share similar experiences? Why do we share similar memories? So we're going to kind of break that down. We're going to break down where our memories kind of fade off to. We talk about forgetting a lot and how when you start clearing your Akash, you start kind of clearing your human memories, and they're replaced by sacred remembrances. So you start remembering different things. So you start remembering galactic war. You start remembering galactic, perhaps partnerships. I know I've had dreams about a lot of really galactic strategic conversations. which are kind of interesting. You know, when I go back to my dream journal, or just sometimes it just pops in my head, these different memories I have of certain places and spaces. I don't want to use the word time, but sort of different aspects of yourself playing out all over. And we talked a lot about our galactic names and how some people share the same name. When they get a galactic name, when they remember their galactic name, a lot of people, some of them have the same name because they come from the same lineage. It's not just galactic remembrances. It's a lot of times when we start to remember different aspects of us all over the place. And a lot of them are similar. When you listen to someone's story and you're like, wow, that happened to me. Or that same thing happened to me. I had that same memory. You know, obviously it might not be the same people, but your memories are similar. You know, your experiences are similar. Everyone's going around the same patterns, you know. And it's like everyone's kind of in a certain subset, you know, where if someone is telling a story about one thing, I might not be able to relate to that. But if someone tells a story about something else, I can relate to that because my experience is very similar to their experiences. It's almost like if we think about our whole human experience as pre-scripted, which we know it is. You know, it's pre-scripted. Until we become conscious enough to understand it's pre-scripted, we really don't have free will. We've talked a lot about that on this channel. So we think about just kind of regurgitating the script, you know, again and again and again, and now just someone else is playing out the part, but it's kind of the same kind of stuff. But it's the same thing over and over again. You see it a lot when you look at movies, and everyone's saying, oh, it's kind of the same thing. You just change a couple people, the stunts are the same, everything's kind of the same, and it's just all the same. And we kind of get like that with a lot of our experiences. When we listen to someone else having the same experience, you see people come together in different group meetings, you know, to talk about the same, you know, air quote, traumatic human trauma event that happened to them. And people share the same ones because they have the same blueprint in a sense. You know, they're going off the same script. So a lot of people share the same experiences. They attach up to a collective that was going to go through that experience. We're not the only ones that go through an experience. That's why certain people resonate with you. Certain people are going to really feel your story. Whereas someone else who went through a different experience might not resonate so much with you. Now, when I say resonate, we're always resonating with the energy of the person. So a lot of times when we do hear a story, and we might say, okay, it didn't happen exactly like that, but the energetics of the story is the same. So I'm not so much talking about that here. Here I'm kind of talking more human. We're going more human today in the fact we're talking about just people repeating the same things. Yes, we have the energetic alignment with people, but that to me comes with more consciousness. When you can look at a story and go, yeah, that might not have played out with my job, but that played out with my friend. You know, the same energy, the same program, you know, so then we get more into our DNA and how we do kind of repeat the same programs. We hook up to the same collectives a lot of times, so we leave those collectives, so we purge that programming. It's ingrained in our DNA for us to react certain ways to certain things. We're going to be impacted by some things, are going to be impacted by other things. But when we talk about almost like copycat experiences, you know, and the term, you know, copycat killer, I saw something I was watching, they were talking about how that'll start to happen, you know, where you'll have someone come in and do something and then you have all these other people imitating it. And not only I was on murder today, but not only on, you know, that really severe side of an example, but kind of see it all over. One person does something and everyone's copying it, trying to do something similar, trying to have the same experiences, trying to go ride that wave. Because we all have a very similar blueprint. How some people became, you know, famous is sort of the same way, or how someone became became successful, it's the same story. How someone met their partner, oh, it's wait, that's the same story. How come all these stories are the same? Do we have no original writing anymore? And that's kind of what it starts to feel like after a while, because we kind of share the same script. What outrages you is the same. You know, people have the similar experiences, they flock together, they're a collective, and we start to kind of pull away from that stuff. And that really starts to unravel a lot of the human entanglements quite a bit. Because when you start untangling the human, and I'm going to use the word again, just human trauma, there's never a soul trauma. Our human's going to see it as traumatic because it wasn't what it wanted it to be. You know, it wasn't that beautiful fairy tale it wanted it to be. So it's going to see it as, God, that shit was so traumatic. But it's only traumatic because it didn't work out the way we wanted it to. It didn't work out the way our human thought it should work out. We didn't have that stereotypical ending that we wanted. So we're going to say, okay, that's traumatic. But the more we pull away from those collectives, we start purging that program. We purge those memories. We purge those experiences. You find you don't link back up to that anymore. You know, you don't link back up to that group anymore. You know, and you start going in, and as your consciousness increases, you're going to plug into different groups. I mean, that's how the collectives fall. Not fighting it within, just getting out of it. And eventually there's no one left in those collectives. You know, there's so many big ones. There's the big survivor collective where people have survived something that, and then everyone kind of jumps on that. But once you purge that survivor identity and you clear that separation, because the survivor, I'm going to use the word memory here, but remembering yourself as a survivor, claiming yourself as a survivor, that's still a separated state. It's still an identity you have. I see so many people that never want to let that word go. They want to cling on to that word because it is an identity for them. So when we talk about we shed identities, we don't just shed, you know, mother, daughter, sister, you know, brother, husband. We shed every identity we have, and that's our identities to, you know, certain things we went through. Like, why I survived that. You know, I was a warrior in that. They're all identities that we have, and eventually all that goes too. And then we get to the question, where does it go? How come when I'm sitting here, I can have a very human experience and I can say, okay, now I remember that. I'm going to talk about that now. When something like that happened to me, and I can go back and frame it from a higher perspective, but it's still a human memory of something that happened. If they all get cleared, you know, we talk about the human Akash. We talk about all the Akashas we have, and the human Akash is only one of them. And when we start to clear the human Akash, a lot of these old memories start coming up, right? And we're clearing our human Akash. We're getting that out of our system in a sense. We're clearing it from our field so other things can then come in. We can unlock in our DNA the other lifetimes we've had, the other experiences we're having now. Remember, it's all multidimensional. A lot of times we lump it into past and future because it's for the linear brain. They can follow it better. They can understand, because the human brain wants to put a marker on it because it doesn't know what else to do with it. When we start unlocking all this other stuff in our DNA, all these other memories, all these other time, Atlantis, Lemurian, our galactic, you know, I see so much stuff now about all the galactic things and all the alien sightings and the UFOs, and it's just really big out right now. It's a huge galactic awakening for a lot of people to kind of delve into that and research it, and it's an activation for people, and they're really into it. And when you see that, you start to see this whole group of collectives where stuff used to be, oh, we don't really want to talk about that. Now it's kind of more mainstream now. That's okay now. You know, we don't have to worry about the judgment anymore because we're not judging ourselves for looking at it. So, oh, wait a minute. Now we're not being judged for it. And that's how judgment works. If you stop judging yourself, you're going to realize there's no one around to judge you anymore. And if anyone does, we know we still hold it somewhere within our body. And then we can look for, where is that held in my body? How can I clear that from my body? But as we do clear the Akash, a lot of these memories go into the collective consciousness. That's where everything is housed. I mean, I'll usually kind of feel it's in my field, but when your field hooks up to the collective consciousness, it technically is in your field and technically is not in your field specifically. But that's how I kind of feel it. Like, okay, that memory's over there. That's why my eyes are always darting. That's up there. Okay, let me grab that from over there. You read the field of consciousness, but that is hooked up to source consciousness. And that's where everything is held. That's why so many people have collective memories. So many people have the same experiences because that's where everything is housed. And when you need to pull that down, you can pull that down. And I can talk about it. But you know it's a cleared memory if you don't have an attachment to the memory and you don't have an emotion around the memory. If you still have an emotion around the memory, you haven't cleared the memory yet. It's still somewhere in your cellular programming where if you talk about it, you get pissed, or you get sad, or you get angry, or you're still doing the blame game of this person did this to me. There's still a story around it, there's still an emotional charge to it. Then you haven't cleared the memory yet. So when you start talking about old memories, and we talk a lot about right before we'll shift to reality, we'll start to shift our frequency, do a quantum jump, into a different frequency, into different timelines. We'll reminisce. A lot of people talk about that same experience. When you start talking about reminiscing, and when I hear people reminiscing, and people are, cleaning stuff out of the closet and looking at old stuff, reminiscing when they did this, I know they're about to take a big jump. They're about to do a big shift because they're starting to go down that lane, which means they're just clearing the memory so they can now have the room to shift. They're clearing it out of their field so they can jump into somewhere else. By clearing all those old things out of the field, we're now able to unlock the higher dimensional memories, our higher frequency memories that are held within us. But it's all clouded with all the human memories. So the minute we start reminiscing, we're kind of letting that stuff come up to release. And it just goes into the collective. So if you ever need to pull it down, like some things I can't remember. And I had met someone somewhere like just 2 weeks ago, and the person mentioned the place to me again. I was like, that sounds familiar, but I don't know why that name sounds so familiar, that location. I have no idea why. And she's like, we were just there 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, oh, okay. No memory, it was already gone. I'd already cleared it, it was gone. It was not even a memory I had anymore, because in the new dimension I jumped into, I hadn't technically been there yet, so I don't remember it. But when she says it, it can be a trigger for us. I always say if I can't remember something, I'm not going down the rabbit hole to try to remember it, because that does pull that memory back. It pulls us back down to the frequency. If we forget it, we're supposed to. We're not supposed to remember it. Our human never wants to forget anything. Wants to hold on to everything, because those memories also hold us to that human consciousness. They entangle us there. To let all those memories go organically, and it's not the human, I just want to forget it all, because you're not forgetting shit when you do that. That's just you wanting to let go, not wanting to let go of something by saying you want to let go of it. It's organically, it just goes. And you'll find that stuff you did an hour ago technically is an old dimension. Technically, it doesn't matter anymore. Technically, we don't even need to talk about it, because it was so 20 minutes ago, and now we're in the next dimension, we're in the next reality of what we're creating, and we don't go back into the old stuff. Everything we create now is from now. The old stuff technically never matters, and we only, even the sacred remembrances bleed through to expand us. And normally, to me, there's something playing out similar here now. And the energy signature is the same too, and that's why certain ones come through at certain times, because it's an activation for us. It might be where we stood up in one dimension, now we have to stand up in another dimension. It's all sorts of reasons. There's all sorts of reasons why it happens here and then it happens there. So these are concepts when we talk about memory, and you look at people who start forgetting everything, and our human memory, the human consciousness wants to label it one thing or the other, but it's just transitioning. It's just forgetting, and it's forgetting very quickly. It's kind of like they're in a quicker state to get out of here, in a sense, so everything starts shedding at one time, and they don't remember anything at all, and it's very sped up. And the higher the vibration, the quicker it's going to go. And the higher the vibration of people that are around, the quicker it's going to go. When you hold yourself to the highest that you can hold yourself at in that moment, everything around you is going to be affected by that. Everything we do is affected by that. So when we're talking about memories, when we're talking about, what memory do we still kind of hold on to? What identities do we hold on to? Because there is a memory around that. What do we feel that makes us who we are? Because none of the human stuff makes us who we are. I was listening to a UFO, not a podcast, so I guess it was. They were just talking about the hearings, right? So it was more of an updated 2023 way to talk about, UFO sightings, which I did a video on, and you can go back and look and check that out, putting a little more consciousness around what's going on with a lot of that stuff now. But a lot of the stuff they talked about was kind of funny because it gets into multidimensionality. It gets into, the linear thing that every extraterrestrial is supposed to look the same way. And if they don't look this way, then, it's definitely a made up story. But there's so many galactic races, there's so many things. And if you look at us being galactic at one part, us being galactic in another dimension, another space, it's just us coming through at different times. But one of them labeled it an experiment. Maybe the human reality is all an experiment, and for the galactic. And this was not a person I would say was, just by the way they were talking, the consciousness they were operating from was not one that was really plugged into the galactic experiment. But that is something you will see, the human experiment, the galactic, the karmic prison that we are all in, and I'm kind of throwing this in here, but I think it was kind of funny because it also shows an ancient remembrance, not realizing you're even having one, because that is something you've seen quite a bit in the different consciousness communities, is if you're really into your galactic phase, you're going to look at the whole human race as a galactic experiment, not an experience. That's more of how our soul looks at it. And basically it's just us being separating from source consciousness, separated across space and time, and all of our identities separated out, and all of the parts of our soul completely separated off, and trying to bring everything back in. I mean, that's what ascension is. You're trying to hold yourself again. It was kind of funny that he would say it exactly like that. And that's a very common way it's explained. Either it's an experiment or it's an experience, depending on what phase of ascension you're in. If you're in the galactic, you're going to call it an experiment. If you're in your soul, it's an experience. It's the whole human experience that we're transcending and holding back. And some will even say, it's a galactic karmic prison for everyone to kind of work through their galactic wars. So kind of interesting. So it's just kind of a way when you see people say certain things and they're tapping into a remembrance. They're tapping into that memory in the collective. They're tapping into it. And also when people remember things the same way, we talk a lot about people who don't remember things the same way. How everyone's in a different dimension, a different space and consciousness. But when people do remember things exactly the same way, they're pulling on that exact same memory. When you have collectives remember the things the exact same way, it's because they're pulling on source consciousness. That's where everything is. So we're going to end our trip down memory lane today with just look at what memories are coming up. Look at what you're remembering that doesn't feel like it's this time at all, or it feels like an ancient memory, or ask to tap into that. Don't be surprised if a lot of human memories have to go first to start to tap into that. Because I know I get to a point now, I can't, if I boil tea, I can't leave the kitchen because I'll forget as soon as I walk out of there that it's on. I've almost burned the house down probably a dozen times if I leave the room because I can't remember. As soon as I leave, I'm in another dimension. If I turn a corner and I get a thing of something I want to talk about, if I don't sometimes write it down right away, if I turn the corner and sit down, it's gone. I almost have to go back around that corner and kind of hit that frequency of where it was again in my field or in the collective consciousness, in source consciousness, to be able to hit it again. So it's just kind of interesting, and just be aware of when these certain things happen, and don't be scared of them. A lot of us are so scared of what we can't. A human brain can't figure it out. We're afraid of it. We don't want to kind of delve into what does that mean? What is that? Don't be afraid of it. Embrace the organic process, which is ascension, which does come with the whole memory thing. Okay. Keep practicing the art of intuition.